Welcome everyone to today's webinar. Some of you have been to our webinars before. You know that we do several webinars a month. Generally, the first Wednesday of the month is a webinar presented by our sales team. And it might be a general overview to ClubExpress, or it might be sort of a case study or a look at a vertical, how a bicycle club might use ClubExpress to facilitate a rally, or a chamber of commerce uses it, or any number of types of organizations. So to give you an idea how certain verticals use it. And then usually on the second and fourth Wednesdays of the month, we do a deep dive into a particular piece of functionality. Well, this month we're doing several because 2 weeks ago we introduced the version 9 upgrade. And because there were a lot of things that were introduced in that, we decided to do one per week for the next several weeks. Last week, I did a webinar on using the new ad hoc reporting module. And today we're going to be doing one on a new piece of functionality called member attachments. So this is the way you can attach files to a member's profile. We generally do a little introduction like this, and then I go into a demonstration. And then at the end, we have a Q&A. But let's take care of a little housekeeping first. All of the phones and microphones are muted except for mine and Michelle's. And Michelle is in our customer success team, and she does a lot of quality assurance and been around ClubExpress forever. Michelle's going to be monitoring the chat window and ask your questions there. Michelle will do her best to answer the questions in real time. After the demonstration, we'll revisit the questions that were asked in the chat window so that people who are watching the recording will have the benefit of knowing what the questions were. And speaking of recordings, a recording of this webinar will be available by going to the clubexpress.com site, click on Cool Stuff, and on the left-hand side, there's a bunch of tabs, and one of them is called Webinars. And if you click on Webinars, you will see that there's a list of the webinar schedule, the upcoming webinars, and at the bottom of that page is a list of the recorded webinars. So you can always get to them there. Now, we also have a whole lot of videos that are video tutorials. And they can be accessed either by going to the same page and clicking on the Video Tutorials tab on the left side, which is right above the Webinars tab, and there's a whole list of tutorials. Or you can go to your control panel in your ClubExpress site, go to the Support tab, and the videos are listed there. And they're all hosted on YouTube, so you could actually just go to YouTube and search for ClubExpress. So there is one thing we'd like for you to do. If you're using ClubExpress, and particularly if you like using ClubExpress, we would like for you to go to clubexpress.com/reviews and enter a review. Let people know how ClubExpress is working for your organization. And this way, people that are considering their choice of an association management software can have the benefit of your experience. Now, on to today's adventure. Member attachments is a new feature in ClubExpress. And this allows you to define the kinds of documents and images that can be attached directly to a member's profile. And this might be because you want a copy of an insurance form for them or a license. An example that we used a couple of weeks ago was a yacht club where somebody wants to berth their boat and say, okay, before you can berth your boat, you have to show us proof of insurance and title. Otherwise, we're not going to let you berth the boat. And so in this particular case, we're interested to see how people are going to be using it. You can define as many of these attachment types as you want and control who can upload each file, who can view the uploaded files, whether multiple files or versioning is supported, and whether or not this file is required. So just to give you an overview of the things that attachments support, you can have any number of attachments. You can enable or disable attachments as you need them. If you disable it, it just simply doesn't let people add new documents. It takes it off of their screen, but it keeps whatever has already been uploaded. You can control who sees the attachments, and that can be only admins or the member who uploaded it and the admins. You can decide who can upload the attachment, the same thing, admins only, or the member and the admin. And you can also decide whether these are documents or images. And there's a feature called versioning, which allows, it's a little odd naming, multiple versions to be uploaded, but it really just means that you want to be able to upload multiple files into this one attachment. And of course, you can decide whether this is required or optional, and we'll talk about how this works. In the demonstration, I'm going to go to the Member Attachments Administration screen. We'll view the existing attachments and some of the options for attachments. Then I'll add a new file attachment definition. We'll look at the fields in that Add Edit screen that control status, who can view and upload, the format, versioning required. Then we'll take a look at it from a member perspective as she tries to upload a file from her profile screen. We'll also show where this gets configured. It's a new addition to the Membership Wizard screen, which controls whether or not the screen would be presented when the member is either signing up or renewing. And then we'll just take a very quick look at coordinator permissions. How do you assign someone to be able to administer this or be a coordinator? So we're at our demo club, which is the Northwest Balloon Club. It's a fictional club. And if you are on the homepage, you'll see that I am logged in as Martin Smith. Martin Smith is an administrator of this club, so he gets a control panel. So when we click on the control panel, on the People tab, down at the bottom of the People tab, there is a section called Setup. And these are things you don't change very often. And there's a new choice on the People tab called Member Attachments. If you click on Member Attachments, we'll go into the Member Attachments module. But I just wanted to show, like with all of the other modules, if you click on this coordinator icon, it lets you add a coordinator. So when you add a coordinator, it means you can add someone who's not a full administrator, but allow them to administer this particular function. And we can take a look at the other way of doing this, but you would just simply select somebody, search for a member, and then make them administrator. That means that they will get a control panel choice, and they will be able to access the member attachments if that's the one that you clicked on. So let's go to member attachments. And it says here that this screen allows you to view attachments that members should upload. And the grid below displays the attachments in sequence, so you can decide when you're presenting a list of things to attach what the order is. So right now we've got display sequence where insurance coverage is at the top and headshots is at the bottom. I could switch it around and save it, and now headshots is at the top. This is a standard ClubExpress sequence dialog box. So you'll notice here that we have a grid here that says here are the attachment types that we have already defined. And this one, for each one, there's a title, there's a status, whether or not it's required, what format it can be in, whether it will accept documents only or images only, who's allowed to view these things once they have been uploaded, who's allowed to upload them, and whether or not we are keeping versions or actually just multiple files here. And then for each one of these attachment types, you can either delete it if there are no files already uploaded to it, or you can edit it. So let's just take a look at this one here called insurance coverage. Each one will have a title and a description that gets displayed to the user. We get a status, which is either active or disabled, which means will it or will it not appear to the user or the admin who's doing it, who can view it, who can upload it, what format it's in, is there versioning yes or no, required yes or no. It's really pretty straightforward. Oh, there are a couple of options that we should get into before adding an attachment. The options are, first, for whether or not to enable a profile link. If you enable a profile link, then when somebody goes into their profile, does the member attachments show up here? If I back out of this and I say yes and save it, and now I go into my profile, you see that attachments shows up. And there's a little oddity that I'll talk about in a little bit, but we're going to leave that set to yes. And then you can decide what you want to call these things, whether the word is attachment or files or documents or certificates or whatever you want to call these things. You can choose the word attachment or or whatever you need, the singular and the plural. Let's add an attachment. Let's do something called an insurance card. So we'll call this a photo of your card. Now, of course, this could be a health insurance card. This could be, whatever you want it to be. But I'm going to say that this is going to be active. I want both members and administrators to be able to view these, and that you be able to view your own. Who can upload it? Well, let's let members be able to upload this. And what format do you want it to be in? We're going to say this is going to be an image. Let's call this photo. And let's say that we want to allow versions, because likely every year you're going to want them to upload this, and you want them to upload their current insurance card. And we're going to leave this as not required at the moment. And I'll explain about required in a moment. The thing that's nice to know is that, like virtually every area in ClubExpress, whatever you're working on, there is likely context-sensitive help available. So, for example, when you look at formats, I don't know whether I should choose image or document. Well, click on the question mark here, and it shows that for documents, approved file types are PDF, doc, docx, text, things like that, CSVs, PowerPoints. There are no executable files and such. And for an image, approved file types are JPEGs, PNG, etc. So this way, you know what you're being asked in advance. But even when somebody is uploading a file, these instructions actually get presented to them so that your members, when they're uploading, will know what file types are available. But the point here is that your first line of defense, if you don't understand something, is just ask the help system. It's pretty good, and it's getting better. So let's just save that. And let's take a look at headshots. If I look at this one allows multiple images. So this one is only image, and it allows for different versions. So you might have something where you need a couple of different images. In fact, what I'd like to do is let's add another attachment, and we'll call this one chase vehicle. And so we want upload a photo of your vehicle, your driver's license, and proof of insurance. Now, we could have done this as 3 different attachments, one for the photo, one for the driver's license, and one for proof of insurance. But I'm modeling this more like when you go to get a driver's license in most states now, they say, you need to bring 4 forms of identification out of these 12 different kinds of identification. So rather than have all the different items, or say identification 1, identification 2, here you let them sort of do it in one place. So we're going to make this active. We're going to do the same thing, members and admins, and members and admins. And this is going to be image. Now, by the way, you will notice that in both documents and image, PDF is allowed, because a lot of people will have a PDF file, a portable document format, an Acrobat format, and we're going to allow that in both, because sometimes you never quite know what form someone's insurance card might come in. So that's the only one that has an overlap in the 2 different types. And we're going to say versioning yes, because we want to allow multiple files to be attached, and required, we're going to say no, because not everybody has a chase vehicle. So, in fact, let's just do one more, and we'll call this pilot's license. And say photo of a license. And we're going to disable this because we're not ready to ask for that yet. And we'll say members and admins, and this will be an image. And I'll go yes, and it's not required. Okay, so now you'll see that this one is disabled. None of them are required at the moment. A couple of them have versioning. Right now, all of them are set for members and admins. Because you might have some things that the members aren't allowed to view. You might have documents, might be a review that you've done of a review of somebody's application, and you want to make that as something that gets attached to a member's profile, but the member's not allowed to see it. It might be a discussion or some evaluations that were done that you only want administrators to be able to see. So that's the reason why, well, who can view it? Well, maybe only admins can view it. And who can upload it? Maybe only admins can upload it. So that's the kind of thing that you might want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to another browser where we are logged in as Jenny Cho. And when I go to her profile, we see that because we have enabled the profile link, attachments shows up here. So that means she can enter attachments. So when she clicks on member attachments, there are 4 kinds of things that she can upload, because we had that one about the pilot's license. It's not enabled yet. In fact, if I jump back over to the other one, if I take this one here and say the pilot's license is enabled and it's required, if I save that and jump over to her screen again and refresh the page, we should get 5 here. And you'll see that anything that is required gets a red exclamation point, which means it's required. Anything with this amber color is optional, and anything with a check mark means that it has been satisfied. There's at least one file there. So let's take a look at a pilot's license photo. So if I click on Add here, it comes up here. You see where it shows the information about what types are permitted. And if I choose Select pilot's license, here it is, private pilot's license. I upload this, choose Save. It says the file is saved. So you'll see that the red circle is gone. It's been replaced by a green check mark. And now we get a menu underneath here. And so I can either delete it entirely, or I can view it, and that shows the document here, or I can edit it. And all editing does is let you select a different file, and it'll replace it. Now, if it was not set for versioning, this Add button would not show up. The reason it shows Add is because we're allowing multiple files, like a license for each year. If I show, let's do insurance coverage. This one here is a document file. So if I select this one, I'm going to go for this PDF file. Yeah, there's a PDF file. And this PDF file, if I save, it gets uploaded. And if I view that one, you'll notice that it only allows for one file. So the Add button no longer appears. It will appear if I delete it. But if we take a look at it, you'll see that this is let's open with this PDF. I haven't used Edge in a long time. Okay, here is the file. So this is in the PDF format. Let me get rid of this. And if I delete it, then the add button will come back. If I just want it to be an insurance card photo, I would click on Add and select. And then we have one that is an insurance card here. And if I want to view that, we have a sample insurance card. So I think you get the general idea. Now, if I wanted to do, say, something like the chase vehicle images, we said that that one allows for multiple images. And here I want a photo of the vehicle, photo of the driver's license, and proof of insurance. So if I come over here and choose Add and select, although you have to do them one at a time, I'm going to say, here's the chase vehicle, and save it. And I'm going to add another one and say, here is the Chase driver's license, and save it. And the last one was, what did we ask for? Chase driver's license, insurance. Oh, the insurance card. And so now you can see under member attachments, we've got these 3 files. And of course, we can look at each one of the files, the driver's license, scary looking driver's license, with John A. Sample, and the insurance card, just like that. So this is the way we would set these things up. And it'll be interesting to see what kinds of things that your organization needs. So if we want something like headshots, to say we want headshots so that we have pictures of everybody in the family for identification purposes. Maybe when somebody comes to an event, we want to take a look and see what the people in this membership look like, so that we can visually compared when they come to an event. So here is an example of 3 of these. Now, if I need to replace one with a new picture of Jenny, you just click on Edit, select the new one. Of course, you could delete it and just add. It's the same thing, but it's just done in one step. That's pretty straightforward. So that's how you do it from the profile screen. Now, I want to show you something that's not terribly obvious, and that is, if we come over here, we're back as Martin Smith. If I turn off Enable Profile Link, you will notice when you go into your profile that attachments is no longer here. You say, well, that's a little strange because I'm a member and an administrator. But it turns out if you go into Control Panel and you go into the Member Manager and you look under Smith, and you find Martin, and you go into the profile for Martin from the Member Manager, not from the profile pull down, now attachments is there. But this is the way an administrator would go into, say, Jenny Cho's profile, and an administrator can go in and edit her attachments. Like if we go here and we say, oh, she inadvertently uploaded Martin Smith's headshot. Well, as Martin Smith, I'm going to go edit that and take it out. So that's the way that's done. Either a member, if you've got profile link enabled, the attachments will appear in their profile. If you don't have it enabled, currently, not only does an administrator have to go to the Member Manager to get to the profile screen for another member, they have to do it for their own membership. So unless you've enabled that profile link, clicking on it from here causes it not to appear. And there are some reasons for it, but it's much like when you come over here for your own profile, you got username and password. But if you go into the Member Manager and you look for Jenny Cho's profile, you don't have username and password. You get something that says reset password. So the options that are presented are slightly different depending on how you come into a profile. Now, what is this required stuff? When is something required? Well, I just added this thing for a pilot's license, and I said that that's required. Well, but none of the people in our club have filled that out yet. Well, when do they get to fill it out? Well, you can send an email to all of your club members and say, hey, we've got this new feature here. We want you to upload your license, or we want you to upload your liability waiver. So it could be any number of things that you're going to upload. But what happens here is in the control panel, there is a screen called the Membership Wizard Setup. And we have a tutorial on this, but just so that a little refresher on it, the screens here and the choices made on these screens determine what screens will be presented to a member when they either initially sign up or whether they are renewing. And there's a slight difference between whether a member is signing up or renewing themselves, or when an administrator is signing up a member or renewing a member. So you've got things like the member type screen when you sign up or renew, that's always going to be presented. In fact, you'll see these are grayed out. You cannot not show them. And so when a new member is signing up, obviously they need to pick a member type. But when somebody's renewing, they may want to change their member type from an individual to a family, or from a normal to a premium, or something like that. So there's a bunch of these things. And then one of the choices here, the new one here, is called member attachments. And so if you have no member attachments defined, well, this choice will not appear on this list. But if you have defined them, that this page does appear. Actually, it'll show on the list here, but it won't appear on the sign up or a renewal page because there's nothing for them to fill out. And if you say, yes, a new member needs to fill it out either when they sign up or when they renew, so this is for the sign up from the member standpoint and renew from the member standpoint, maybe you don't require it to be shown for an admin who's signing up a member, because maybe they simply don't have those files. So let's not show it to them. But the difference here is that when this is enabled, if a attachment is flagged as required, the member will not be able to proceed past this page in the wizard until they've attached a file. So they can't get to the member interests or the username and password. They can't get there if you've got a file that says it is required. So that's where the requirement shows up. It's not that when you got the screen up, you have to do it, otherwise you can't save the screen. You can't proceed past the screen unless you have actually entered a file of the correct type for the particular type of attachment. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to the control panel here and go to the member attachments, and I'm going to turn off required for pilot's license, because we have people that do sign up for this sample demo club here, and I just don't want them to have to load a pilot's license. The last thing to discuss is, well, administrators can always see the screen. But one of the really nice things about ClubExpress is that you can distribute the work around. And in this case, for example, you don't have to say to your members, I need you to send to the administrator the photo of your chase vehicle and all this stuff and send it to me in an email and I will enter them into the system. Here, your members can update their own attachments, provided you give them a link to do so in that options where you say, yes, we want to enable the profiling, so it shows up in their profile. Similarly, you don't have to say, well, I need a full administrator to be able to administer this section. So if you go to the control panel, you can define an administrator for just member attachments. They're just called coordinators. And you can add a coordinator here just by selecting the name. You search for somebody, select it, and then they will show up here. But the other way of doing it, and this also shows a new feature, is if I go to the Club tab and scroll down to the bottom on administrators and coordinators, it has a list of all the administrators, and right now there's only one administrator, and the list of all your coordinators. So if we look at Fred here, we can see that Fred, if we click on the functions icon, you will see that Fred is able to get to the member manager. He's able to get to the non-member database. He can run a bunch of reports, and he can do the additional member data, but now we want him to also be able to do member attachments. So that's a very nice thing to say, oh, here are all the things that we want Fred to be able to do. We also want him to be able to manage photo albums and such. And then when we save this, now all of those things are available to him. So if you want to add a coordinator, you can add, say, Jenny by clicking on Select. And we'll go to Show and Search. And we go to Jenny and Select. And now we say, okay, what do we want her to be able to do? Oh, we want to be able to do the check-in desk, and we want her to be able to do the standard member directory, and we want her to be able to administer these things. And when you save it, you get this. Now, the other way of looking at this is view by function. So if I click on view by function, I can say, oh, okay, under people, we can look for member attachments. And when we click on this, we say, oh, okay, well, who are the coordinators? So you can look at it this way. But going back to view by member, there's a new feature. And this was often requested, and I'm very happy that we put it in. Let's assume that Leslie Baumgartner is going to leave the organization. She's been with you for 5 years, and she's taking another job, or she's moving out of state. Well, what you can do is you can copy all of the permissions that she has. If we take a look at what she can do is member manager. Let's let her just do a bunch of things here. If we save this, so maybe she was able to do photos and whatever you're going to do, you can click on this and select the member. And let's go, well, let's see if we go to Show. And if we copy that, now Jenny will have all those same permissions. So this way you don't have to go and select all these things one at a time. You can simply say, I want to copy these permissions over to another person. So that's a new feature. So let me go back to the People tab and go back to Member Attachments. And so let me open it up to Michelle. What's been going on in the chat?
Yeah, there are a number of questions. So let me start with the most recent one from Laura. She wanted to know if the member attachments was only available in the primary member profile, or can they also be added under secondary and tertiary?
That's an interesting question. Let's see. If I go to Control Panel and I go to Member Manager, that's a good question. We're looking for member level. Let's go to secondary members. Let's just find anybody here. So we go to search for any secondary member. And this is a secondary member. If we come over to this person here, yes, we can do attachments. So you can attach to a secondary member. A tertiary member would obviously, a tertiary member could not do their own because they can't log in. But if you're an administrator, yes, you can attach documents or whatever for that tertiary member. So the answer is yes. Great question.
So a couple of concerns people have as far as usage. We have Kirsten who mentioned that they require members to submit a resume, and this is going to be very happy, make them easier to get the resume, so they would most likely use it for that purpose. And Tom and Val are with Villages, and both are going to be submitting enhancement requests to our development team because they feel that this would really be great if they could be able to do this where admins could upload stuff to non-members, where right now this is a member-only feature. So they're both going to be sending an enhancement request for that. And there might even be other organizations and clubs that might also be interested in the ability to have this be something that an administrator could attach certain files that are necessary for non-members. So that seems to be something that there's a lot of discussion about. I know this initially is a member thing, so I don't know if you've heard anything more of it possibly being used for non-members. I certainly haven't at this point.
There will be enhancements to this module. This is initial release of it, And the feedback from our customers was one of the things that drove it in the first place, but continued feedback about how you're using it, how you'd like to use it, will absolutely steer the development on this. You can either contact our customer success people, the support team, and drop them a note with the suggestions, or there is ideas, I believe it's plural, IDEAS, at clubexpress.com, where you can just send your suggestions to the developers directly. So that's a great thing to know. Next.
Right. Let's see. And another question that came up from James was, I guess when you were talking about how people can add files or delete them, I believe he was referring that rather than make something you don't want disappear, why not just gray them out? So members may not get confused when things seem to disappear. But I believe initially it was designed to, add files, or if you don't need them, delete them. I'm not sure. Again, that would be a great enhancement request.
I'm not sure exactly what he's asking. If we go to the member manager, this idea of active or inactive is actually pervasive throughout ClubExpress, because you may have something that's under development, and you say, okay, as of January 1st, we want to require this thing. Well, I want to be able to define the thing now and simply not show it to anybody until later on. So active and inactive, whether it be about a news article or about a blog or about pretty much anything, you can decide whether or not people see it. And that's really where active and inactive come, which is a little different than deleting something. So I'm not sure if that answers the question, but hopefully it does.
Okay. All right. And also a question that just came in from Carolina Arbors. Are there any reports that provide the admin with who or has not uploaded documents, whether they're required or not? So I believe that I don't know.
What a great question. I almost forgot to mention this. We have here, show me all the members without required attachments. So this will probably be, and you can decide what kind of members, active members, expired members, et cetera, at what level. But this should probably be a lot of people in this report. Oh, I forgot I made it not required. So if I went back into here, let's see, and let's make this required. Let's see what happens if I run the report again. This should be virtually everybody except for that one person. So yes, and it shows for each one of the attachment types. So this one says a pilot's license. It would have everybody there. So there would be a section for each one of those. So that's a wonderful question. In fact, let me turn it back off again. So this way you can tell of all the people that are your members who hasn't uploaded this thing yet, or whatever is listed as required. And so the reports are, show me the members with attachments by document, meaning each one of the attachments, member by attachments by member.
Okay, and another question was, and this again was something I let him know would be a great enhancement request. Again, a lot of great ideas that people have, and ideas at clubexpress.com is where all enhancement requests should go. But the idea that when you are uploading, when members are uploading documents or images, if there, or at least for the image part of it, if there could be a way to put a title with it, like we do with uploading photos into photo albums and such. So again, that's currently not an option as we saw, but that would make a great enhancement request.
These are all great feedback. And this initial release, I think, will probably be great for most people. But again, we're always looking for feedback to say, oh, it almost works for me, except it would be better if it did this in my particular case.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending, and we'll see you in the next webinar.